bad news is we all have parasites. And the worst news is you'll never get rid of it, no matter what. So, forgetting all that, let's talk about a medicine that most people don't talk about. It's called niclosamide. Now, we know about ivermectin, we know about fenbendazole and mebendazole, but niclosamide is not often mentioned, and I love it. So, in the triad of anti-parasitics, ivermectin, fenbendazole, or mebendazole, and the niclosamide. And that way, you're probably going to get every one of the worms. So there's worms and there's protozoa. Now the worms that niclosamide gets are, Ascaris, Strongyloides, hookworms, tapeworms. It's antifungal as well. The excellent news is that it has been found to be effective against leukemia, prostate CFCs, breast CFCs, colorectal CFCs, ovarian CFCs, glioblastoma, lung CFCs, head and neck, esophageal. Oh, by the way, CFCs, they refer to it as cancer. CFCs, chronically permanent cells, and osteosarcomas, which are bone CFCs. Pretty nasty stuff, and that's because it blocks the NF-kappa beta pathway, the STAT3 pathway, the WNT-B catechin pathway, and mTOR. Wow. And then it gets stem cells while it's at it. So it's amazing if you have CFC. In fact, it's almost front line, even in the conventional world, with ovarian and osteosarcomas. But the fact that it gets strongyloides is very good, because strongyloides is one of those parasites that is in the category of disgusting. Okay, they crawl through the skin, they'll go in your ankles. If you're in soil, by the way, if you're in the UK, if you're in the US, Canada, not happening there. It's pretty much in tropics and subtropics. But these guys crawl through your ankle, get into your veins, up into your lungs, and when it's coughing them up, swallow them. They love your small intestines. They go in there, and they lay eggs. And then anyway, those eggs come out into feces. Now here's what's disgusting about these guys. They come out, and they can turn around and crawl right back in through your skin of your butt and get into your blood vessels and start the whole process over again. So, like, for example, whereas most groundworms have to have half of their life cycle in the soil, these guys, they like it that way, but they'll just crawl right back into the skin and they'll infest it that way. So anyway, since they like the lungs and the small intestines, you can have anything from wheezing and coughing and even like something that looks like a pneumonia or gastrointestinal problems with diarrhea, problems like that. And you just get pretty sick and strong. But remember, it also gets the other ones. That's niclosamide. Ivermectin also gets these strongyloides, all right? So if you're doing both of them, you're in really good shape. But we forget about niclosamide. I would not work with someone who has CFCs without using niclosamide. And of all the antiparasitics, it's probably the safest in terms of its effect on the liver. Anyway, we need to keep niclosamide in mind. Remember the triad that I love: ivermectin, fenbendazole, and niclosamide. Right? And we do those in cycles. Why do we do those in cycles? And why do I say you'll never get rid of them? Because these guys, all the parasites, will lay eggs. They can lay as little as only 2,000 a day up to 200,000 a day. And eggs. And each one of them can become 2,000 to 20,000 to 200,000 worms. So the cycle just keeps on going. So that's why you don't just take it once, or you don't just take one or two of the medications. You got to really go after them. And you do like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, because they're going to keep rolling, and those eggs are going to keep hatching. And you'll finally get to a point where they're down enough in numbers, your immune system has been strengthened because you're eating right, living right, and all that sort of thing, and you just keep it at bay, just like it is. But we don't think of them, parasites, in terms of how many do I have. We think of them in terms of biomass, because they did. Anyway, don't worry about it. You're not going to get symptoms. You're going to get well. You're going to get healthy. You need to take these medications. And then there are other natural things we can take as well. Hulda Clark's formulas are fantastic. Cellcore has a great formula. And you can use those once you've gotten rid of the initial, you've lowered it down so there's no problem, or you have CFCs. And then you can maintain it with, like, Hulda Clark's herbal formulas, which she has outlined all of the different ones that get egg, the larva, and the adult. But so do we do that with our medications. And why are we using medications? Why aren't we just using natural things? Because the human beings that we are this year, in 2025, are not the same as lived in 1900. We had a much stronger immune system. They hadn't been exposed to 5G, EMF, and all that sort of thing. They hadn't been injected with these. Anyway, that's why. So we need a little bit more help at this point. Okay, and that's it. So, niclosamide.